books of the Torah have been given different names at different times in history by different people. Bereshis, Genesis, Sefer Yashar, etc. Sefer Bamidbar, which literally means in the desert. One of the names that it was given by our sages is Chomesh Hapkudim, the book of counting. What is being counted in this book? What's being counted in this book are the Jewish people. And at the very beginning, we are told, Su'u es rosh b'nei Yisrael, lift up, raise up the heads of the Jewish people and do a general census of the Jewish people. And there are certain rules about how to do the census. I'm not going to be talking about that at the moment. But what is the idea of lift up their heads and count them? So Rav Mordechai Yosef Leiner, the Ishbitzer Rebbe, he says, very simply, he says the Rosh, the head, represents the thought process, the intellect of each person. And he says that is something which is unique. No two people look at the world in exactly the same way. No two people think in the same way. And he says that means that every individual is a required by God to be in this world. And he says not only that, but he says every single way in which every person understands their relationship with God, their relationship with the Torah, etc., is part of God's plan, that your relationship with God is unique. Your relationship and understanding of the Torah is unique. Your relationship and understanding of yourself to the world is unique. And he says, and all of those parts are part of an irreducible complexity. The complexity of the creation that God made requires a diversity of thought, requires a diversity of understanding. And God does not want us to be clones who are like the slaves that we were in Egypt, walking in lockstep, marching. A good friend of mine grew up in Johannesburg, South Africa. I was driving with him about a couple of years ago in Johannesburg, and he had gone to a private school, non-Jewish private school. And we passed by one of those, a private school in Johannesburg, and we see students marching in the sports fields, very coordinated marching and etc. I said, oh, did you guys do that in your school? He said, no. I said, why not? He said, too many Jews in our public school, in our private school. So, because he says, we don't march in step very well. You know, the Israeli army is an incredible army, fantastic army, but they don't march that well. You know what I mean? You look at the Iranian army, their marching is perfect. The Koreans, oh my gosh, North Korea. So hundreds of thousands of people all marching. He said, we don't do that well. And that's a good thing, because God wants us each to have our own unique individual perspective. It could be that this other person is a very great scholar and maybe one of the greatest scholars, but his perspective is not necessarily the perspective that I need and that is useful to me. I need my own perspective. Yes, I need to be guided by maybe I should seek the guidance of a great scholar, I could seek the guidance of someone else, and that's important to get some objectivity. But the most important thing is my unique understanding of Torah, of God, and of the world. And that is something which this particular book of the Torah begins with, this idea, Su'u et Rosh, when you count the Jews. And God says to Moses and Aaron, when you count the Jews, you are elevating them, raising their heads, meaning you are showing that each person's head is unique, different, and needed in the total picture of God's world. This is Mordechai Becher with the Gateways Parshat vlog.